All right, we've now returned to the Midwest, to the state of Wisconsin, and Green Tier with Scott Hassett and Mark McDermott.
Thank you for the honor of being here today. Green Tier is a yes, we can first step in the next generation of environmental law, where a better environment, engaged civil discourse, and innovative business practice come together by using agreements, contracts, and charters to jointly and systematically manage environmental performance. This body of law provides new tools to differentiate those committed to systematic results and continual improvement, and unleashes capacity to achieve new and greater performance. Green Tier is our framework for yes within the law. It moves us from mandated bare minimums and random acts of environmental kindness to systematic commitments to superior environmental performance. Our agreement with Madison Gas and Electric, for instance, set in motion an unprecedented joint transparent examination of environmental options. Possibilities to consider took precedence over specific emissions to reduce. Fast forward 3 years, and you have nitrogen oxide and sulfur dioxide emissions down, bucking all trends, with a plan underway to stop coal-burning operations. Green Tier is a we approach with shared responsibility for environmental governance. It acknowledges leaders and lets them lead. Their leadership produces business value and public value in the form of environmental results and truly engaged participation. Green Tier also provides a reason to unite, defining superior environmental performance for the first time in U.S. environmental law. Green Tier charters leadership with private entities, public entities, or a combination of the two, and helps achieve superior environmental performance. The recent Clear Waters Initiative uses a charter to unite 2 cities, a county, the state, and the business community in a legal agreement that effectively manages water quality issues, shares environmental responsibilities, and delivers real-time environmental performance information. Less than a few months old, compliance costs have been reduced by $50,000, and hundreds of sites are monitored with virtual tools where previously only a handful were visited. We have spawned local actions that yield international results. Cook Composites and Polymers used the Green Tier stakeholder involvement tools in concert with their environmental and management system and cooperative agreement to literally transform their Saukville, Wisconsin operation. Currently, Cook's participation model, contained in our agreement with them, is being used in their other facilities and for the sustainability model at Cook's corporate parent, Total, the French multinational petrochemical company. Green Tier is about what we can do. Through flexibility and creativity, we can get better results. Achieving superior environmental performance means looking beyond laws that put waste in the ground and leave it there, or simply burn off compounds before leaving the stack. We Energies showed us through flexibility granted in a performance contract that landfilled ash can replace 1,200 train car loads of coal. Packaging Corporation of America showed us that looking at the whole process, not just the top of the stack, could produce 750% more control of methanol, eventually using that refined methanol to fuel their emergency boilers. We can innovate, learn, and replicate. We are proud of the Green Tier agreements, contracts, and charters that are shared with our sister states, our pilot program law copied by South Carolina, our new law attracting over 300 people to a Madison conference to explore environmental law in a connected world. We see hope when an air permit engineer tells us she no longer has to rationalize spending a couple years generating a voluminous permit that did nothing to improve the environment. She is now using Green Tier with 4 of the state's largest printers to reach an agreement even better than those from our pilot programs. So much of command and control is no, you can't. Green Tier distills to 3 words: yes, we can. Yes, this is the first law that we know of in the United States to describe what we want for the environment in the definition of superior environmental performance. We is the intersection of citizenship and sovereignty in Green Tier's tools, such as environmental charters that draw regulator, regulated, and community together. and can is how we have used this body of law to produce results beyond random acts of environmental kindness, tap the talents of our employees, and connect an international network of pioneers and advocates. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Questions? Please, David.
One of the most innovative parts of your initiative is your charters, which, as I understand, are agreements with trade associations, for example, to get them involved in changing the behavior of their members. That's brand new in this country, and it's also untested in this country, and quite a challenge. I wonder if you could talk to us about any signs that you think point to the future success of that initiative.
Well, we have seen some success, and it's certainly brought strange bedfellows together in these projects, working with some of the trade associations, particularly the Builders Association. But I'll turn to Mark to talk about some of the components of that, because he's been on the ground in a lot of these transactions.
I think it has affected us most in three areas where we've seen the synergy created between the sector that's involved and the NGOs or community members who are participating with them. This is a new experience for many of the businesses, and we're having dialogues that simply haven't taken place before, where NGOs are talking about what their wants and aspirations are, and the goals that are contained in the charter with the developers, for example, were jointly developed with parts of the NGO community, helping to contribute to those. The other thing we've seen is that it's been a key for engaging not just large businesses, but small businesses as well. If you look at the development community, the average size of a developer is, in our state anyway, under 10 people. What they've come up with is a formula to create management systems to deal proactively with environmental issues rather than waiting to the end of the process when the environmental agencies weigh in with environmental considerations. The third element being the actual on-the-ground producing results that are producing economic value for the developers as well. So we're actually seeing some economic gains from the developers that have weighed in on this point.
Some of us have been struggling with trying to understand the scope of the program. The site evaluator said as this April that you had 7 participants in the Green Tier program and 7 in the pilot program. That sounds like a very small number, but we don't know whether they represent very large employers, and we don't know whether what percentage of the workforce that they represent in the state of Wisconsin.
Well, we've had some big gains on a statewide basis where we've dealt with some of the utilities, and I'll let Mark explain that. But then again, the charters get to multiple parties where we have organizations.
So is a charter a single participant?
It might be a trade organization.
Well, let's say it's a trade
60 or 70 participants within that organization.
Sure. Let me hit the second question first. For a charter organization where you're talking about developers, you're talking virtually all of the developers in the state. There are about 90 different entities that are participants in that charter process. For the scrap metal and automotive recyclers, you've got 60 entities that are involved in that, 60 different businesses that are involved.
So I'm still confused whether you represent a tiny proportion of the businesses in Wisconsin, a tiny percentage of the employees, or whether you represent a large percentage.
Looking in total at all of the businesses participating in the program, it would be a small percentage of the businesses in the state. Looking at the businesses in the context of how many within a given trade association, it would be a large percentage. So you're targeting your work with those who are pursuing superior environmental performance. But if I may, let me answer the second part of the question. If you look at the 6 members who are part of the pilot program, they actually represent 30% of the sulfur dioxide emissions in the state. At a time when emissions of sulfur dioxide in the state have gone up for all businesses, 6 companies through the cooperative agreement and the provisions contained in those cooperative agreements actually reduced sulfur dioxide emissions. So while the trend line is up for most companies statewide, for cooperative agreement companies, it's been down. If you look at hazardous air
And for
pollution,
the state as a whole?
for the state as a
For the
whole,
total in terms of emissions? Is
yes.
It's up, but not up as much as?
It's up. Sulfur dioxide emissions for the state as a whole are up. Sulfur
How
dioxide.
much less up are they than they would otherwise have been?
I'm sorry, I did.
We're really struggling to try to figure out whether you're having a major impact or not. On actual environmental degradation.
Okay, and in this case, the actual sulfur dioxide emissions from these 30% plants are down. That's not enough down to take the statewide emissions in sulfur dioxide down. It's still moderately up.
So
But
just to go on with, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
What we read in the report is that you, the goal was by 2015, you would cover 1% of the companies, businesses in Wisconsin, and which, very frankly, did not seem like a high goal. But perhaps what you're saying is if you reach that goal, this is the question, what impact will you have on the environment?
Well, I think the example we just gave, when some of those companies are utilities, and those are your major emitters in the state,
Right.
you can have very significant statewide impact when you've got your either major manufacturing in Wisconsin, which happens to be paper company, and then utilities. You can have a very significant impact. Same thing with the trade associations if you're working with buildings.